Now, we've got some huge breaking Rugby Union news. Our reporter, Eleanor Roper, is at Twickenham for us. We can cross there now. Eleanor, what can you tell us?
Well, in the last few seconds, the RFU confirming that it has parted ways with head coach Eddie Jones. I can bring you the statement here. It says, following a review of the Autumn Nations Series, Eddie Jones has been dismissed from the position of England head coach. The RFU will now conclude the long-term work it's been undertaking on coach succession planning and will look to the future. Now, when they say coach succession planning, we always knew that Eddie Jones would leave his position as England head coach after the World Cup next year. That's obviously been brought forward. It says, speaking about the review of the Autumn Nations Series, which has just been concluded, RFU CEO Bill Sweeney says it's important to recognise the huge contribution that Eddie Jones has made to English rugby, winning 3 Six Nations championships, 1 Grand Slam and taking us to a Rugby World Cup final. He has the highest win ratio of any previous England head coach and has helped develop the leadership skills of many players and coaches. He says, I'm grateful to Eddie for all he's done for England across many areas of the game and the professional way in which he has approached reviewing the performance of the team. He's provided the panel with insight and meaningful lessons that will support the team performance going forward. So confirmation of something that's been long suspected over the last couple of weeks, which is that Eddie Jones has been sacked as the England head coach. Here we are at Twickenham where this review has been taking place, and this follows the Autumn Nations Series. England only winning 5 from 13 games this year. A poor Six Nations. They then travelled to Australia where they did get a series win, but it's this Autumn Nations Series that seems to have proved decisive. England lost their opening fixture to Argentina. They beat Japan, drew to New Zealand, but it was the loss to world champion South Africa that really led the RFU to examine things and to look at Jones's position. Fans leaving the crowds, leaving the stadium early, booing, and that's what led to this review taking place. Now, we can bring you some stats of Jones's time in charge. 81 games he's overseen as England coach, winning 59 of them with a win rate of 73%. As I say, though, it's this year that's really not gone his way. 5 wins from 13 games. Eddie Jones winning 3 Six Nation titles, including that Grand Slam back in 2016, and leading England to a World Cup final in 2019 in Japan. Now, we're looking ahead to next year's World Cup, and that's where this has proved so tricky, I think, for the RFU. That there's just so little time before next year's World Cup. We knew that Jones would leave the position after next year's World Cup, but this doesn't leave the RFU a huge amount of time to figure out who is it that can take charge and lead them for the next year. Now, one person's name who had been mentioned was Warren Gatland. He's obviously coached Wales and the British and Irish Lions. It'd been mentioned that maybe he's someone who could have come in for that sort of 10 to 12 month period and leading England into that World Cup. But yesterday it was announced that he would take over the Wales squad again and he will instead lead them to the World Cup. But the person who's the clear favourite is, of course, Steve Borthwick. He's someone who's coached alongside and under Eddie Jones, both in Japan and as part of this England setup. He's worked for the England setup for 5 years as a forwards coach before going on to Leicester Tigers, where last year he led them to a Premiership title. He's in his 2nd season in charge of Leicester Tigers. This is obviously going to be hugely expensive for the RFU, parting ways with Eddie. A year left on his contract, which they'll have to pay out before then obviously paying someone else to take over. But in the RFU statement, which I'll just get back up, they do say that it's Richard Cockerell who will take over the day-to-day running of the men's performance team. So he's a member of this coaching team in the England setup. He will keep things running until the RFU make a decision on who will take over properly and who will lead England to next year's Rugby World Cup in France. So confirmation just now that Eddie Jones has been sacked as the England coach.